Hey guys, welcome back to another edition of Online Academy. This is our SharePoint introductory course. This is video 9, and today we're going to talk about tracking version history and how to turn that on. So first, getting started with SharePoint, if this is your first video that you've seen, again, this is video 9, so you might want to start over from the beginning if this is something completely new to you. If not, welcome. And if you just want a quick video and a quick tip on how to track the versioning history, then welcome. SharePoint Online is a little bit different than on-prem. It's all done through Azure. There's no on-premise. It's actually a software application that runs on Azure. So it's a little bit different, but versioning history and version control is universal throughout all platforms. So that's the good news. Go to office.com. You log in with your credentials. You should see a landing page that looks a little bit like this. You'll see all your apps. If you don't see SharePoint, that means you have an O365 subscription that does not come with SharePoint. So this video won't do you much good until you get that, or maybe you just want to watch and learn. So in the top left, you click the waffle. You scroll down. That is SharePoint right there. Yeah, it's another way of opening up through the waffle. So where to start? If you have the direct link to the list or library that you're going to be working on, that's where you want to start. If you do not have the direct link and you have to find it, you're going to want to go to Site Contents. That can be found on the left, or you can go up to the gear to find that. Or if you're on the homepage, you can click the new and then choose list or library. I have list here because I'm going to be working with lists today. But you can also choose library and it'll be the same. If you do not see site contents and you don't have the ability to go through the gear, that means you don't have permissions, which will likely affect the way that you can turn version history on. You probably will not be able to turn it on or off or really mess with it. You might be able to see it on an existing list if it already exists, but you won't be able to turn it on as it is permission controlled. So, finding your list or library, right? There are a couple ways of different ways of doing it, like I just talked about. Um, so first, we would just want to find that list or library. We can open up the list or library and go to the list or library settings area, or alternatively, we can go to the list or library directly through the site contents page, which we just talked about. And if we want to use the gear, that's the uh, most control, most customizable was the word that I was trying to say, area of that. And then yes, I already gave a spoiler. You use the gear. So the gear is your friend. If this is your first video, I get used to me saying that. The gear is your friend. Go ahead and go to list settings. And alternatively, if you had gone through site contents and opened in, then you'll now, if you're in your list or library, now you go back to the gear and go into list settings. So the gear is your starting point for all administrative tasks. That should be nothing new to you at this point. And you'll go ahead and choose list settings, and that will open up the settings associated with this list. If you're in a library, go ahead and go to library settings. It'll bring you to a similar page. Here in the list settings, the list or library settings, there's a ton of information. Don't get overwhelmed. We're only looking for one thing here. And as we go through these videos, you'll start to see what everything is and where to find it. So you might not know exactly where it is on the page, but at least you'll know where to look. Most settings, if not all settings, are right there at the top. In the middle are your columns, and on the bottom are generally your views, just for a little FYI. Maybe I'll make a video on breaking down the settings page in a list in the library. But for right now, you just want to look at that first column. Second one down, it's called versioning settings. Go ahead and click versioning settings. And that will bring you to a page. Again, I'm in lists. If you're in libraries, it'll look very similar. This is how you'll be able to turn tracking of versioning on. It's called in lists. It's called item version history. If you see document history, I believe is what it's called in libraries. It's the same thing, same process, but by default this is turned off or to no. So you want to change it from no to yes. It says create a version each time you edit an item in this list. Yes. Notice the language there, though, which I'll go over here in a second, that the language is not turn this on. The language is create a version every time you edit. That means data is being collected, just FYI. You can choose additional options if necessary. So like there's a keep the following number of versions. If you're in a library, you can turn minor versions or major versions. So there's a couple different things you can do inside this. Play around with it. You're not going to break anything. You can always turn it off. Um, So there you go. You now have versioning history. So now you can track information, changes. Uh, you can see who all is amended, how many times it's been amended. Um, Another thing to note, versioning is off by default. And then once again, uh, once on, it will track changes for documents and line items, but that means more data. So again, it said create an item every time it's changed. So what that does is it creates so if you have one document, but you have 10 versions of that document, you have 10 documents. So it creates a line item or a document every single time, which eats up space. So if you have 1 terabyte of SharePoint storage, which seems like a lot, if you have a lot of lists and libraries that are consuming data through versioning, then you're going to eat up that pretty quickly. So it's just something to be mindful of, something to keep track of. It's always good to put a cap on, just so you don't have thousands. If it's something that you don't necessarily need to track every single version that happens. Maybe set a cap just so you're not eating away at your Azure storage. So let's go ahead and do this live demo, shall we? So I am in the versioning settings already, but I'm going to go ahead and go back so I can show you how I got here. How about that? That'd probably be good. So here is the home page. You're going to have to bear with me. My system's being really slow today. So here we are on the home page. I'm not going to create a new list. You guys, if you guys want to see me create a list, you can go to an older one. Here's the flyout. It does look a little different from old videos. That's because Microsoft is always updating things. And apparently this week they wanted to update the way that this site settings looks. So if it looks a little different than mine, if yours looks different than mine, don't freak out. You just haven't gotten the new update yet. But we'll click on site contents. I'm going to find a list for you guys to mess around with. And I'm going to choose testing, I think is one. That's a good one. Where are you? I'll do test. How about that? All right, so we already have one in here. A quick way to check if version history is turned on, these 3 little dots right here, if you click that, you go to more, you can see that it's not going to show me any type of versions, right? So it's not on yet. So we'll go to the gear. We'll go to list settings. First column, second one down is versioning settings. So we're going to go ahead and click that. And so now by default, we see that it is not on. So we'll go ahead and say, yes, we want to create a version each time an item is created in this list. So again, it's creating an item. That means more data. That means that it's going to be using space. So just something to keep in mind. And since we are keeping that in mind, I'm going to say, yes, we only want to keep the following number, 10. So that will help limit or administer how much data we're actually using. You can require content approval. So if you want to avoid people going in and just making major changes, you can require content approval, and then administrator will have to approve it. I'm going to leave that as no for this. And then you can create draft security. So if you really wanted to lock this down, you could say, based upon user access, you can say who can do what. I'm going to say just leave it as blank and go ahead and go in here. So a little hack here is getting back into the list. These are breadcrumbs up here. And so this test right here is actually the name of the list. So I can't tell you how many times I've seen people go into list settings and then use the back arrow or not know how to get back to the list from here. If you use this breadcrumbs and you click on test, it will bring you back to the list. So you're welcome out there. Um, You're welcome for the life hack. So now if we click this, now we see version history is on. So if I were to click this, it'll just give me, which there's only one version, who created it, which is me, and then a little bit of information about it, right? Actually, and then it was modified by that person. So what you can do is, if I were to go in here and edit this, so let's say I want to edit all. Let's say I want to change this choice field to choice field 2. You know what? This is no longer first new. Now it's called first new A. And we want to go hit save. Or if we're adding attachments, uh, we'll just go ahead and hit save. Notice that this it didn't add one to this view, but if we go to version history, we should see 2.0 while it's thinking and working on it. We should see 2.0 here, which we do, and it'll tell you when each one was created. So the original one apparently was created in December, um, and then you can see this was today, and today's April 3rd. Uh, and you can see who modified it, what changes were made. So it was originally called First New, now it's called First New A. It was originally had enter choice 1, now it has enter choice 2. And so if we wanted to roll back, we could click this down and then say if we wanted to view it, we could. If we wanted to delete it, we could. Or if we wanted to restore it, we could. So now you can rest assured that it's one more layer of protection when you're dealing with lists. And when you're dealing with document libraries, it's good to have because sometimes you'll end up with a lot of different documents that have different names on them, and people are saying version, maybe they're titling it version 1.1 or version 1.2. You don't have to do that anymore. SharePoint tracks it for you. So there's no reason why you should have the same document in the same library named something differently. Just let the system do what it's designed to do. It's pretty straightforward. If you guys do have any questions about this, please let me know. Um, and now you can work wherever with your versioning. So this is really important, especially when we get into Microsoft Teams and you have people collaborating on documents, which we're going to have a Teams introduction course here coming up soon. It's taught by Haley. It's going to be really good. If it's already been posted, I highly recommend you guys to go check it out. Um, it will have a lot of crossover. Microsoft Teams is a software application that it really helps with the front end management and collaboration of a lot of stuff that we're doing in this SharePoint course. Um, so version control definitely helps with that, especially as you have live collaboration going on. You can turn it back to versionings. So just something to keep in mind. If somebody went in and they have live collaboration turned on and you're collaborating in Microsoft Teams, somebody made an edit by mistake, it doesn't matter. You can just turn it back to a previous version. So really good tool to have turned on. So as always, if you have questions, we have answers. Go ahead and email us at support@capitalpresence.com. You can follow us across social media at Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I don't have the Twitch up there. Obviously, you found us on YouTube, so um, all of these are at Capital Presence across the board, and we are in the process of launching our own website that'll have all of these and additional trainings. So be on the lookout for that. That is called Online Academy. So until next time, guys. As always, I've been getting some responses on LinkedIn and through email about videos that you guys want to see. Please reach out to me, and I will make sure I get those taken care of for you. So as always, guys, have a good one, and I will see you next time.